Hi, hello, and welcome to my studio. And this, the first episode of redrawing my artwork from before today, I guess. Today's artwork is called The Wild Orchard and was done in 2011 when I was 15 years old. Oh my. Okay, I thought I was 10 or 11 when I first painted this, which is okay for that age. I guess it's okay for any age, really, as we all have to start somewhere. This was my first acrylic painting after all, and today's repaint will be my latest. Let's see how I fare. But first, what I like about the painting. The clouds are nice, and the depth isn't bad. There's an attempt at a hilly landscape and flowers, though they aren't defined. However, it is neither an orchard, there are no fruit, or wild. It's pretty neat, all things considered. Let's see if we can improve this. So the first thing I do is scribble directly onto the canvas with an acrylic marker, and map out what I want to do differently. The placement of the first tree hasn't changed, but I will be adding another closer to the camera for added depth. I'm really going to push the hills here and add a little path that winds around them. Jumping directly into the paints, I'm not going to tell anyone where I get my paints and brushes. Art is hard enough in this day and age, what with the encroaching of generative AI and the environmental impacts of using synthetic materials and the controversies surrounding insert name of art store here. I'm just here to have a good time, and I can really sink my teeth into the politics of being an artist another time. Today, we fill in the sky and plot out the leaves and hills. These are acrylic paints, so anywhere I want to fix a mistake or adjust a shape I can do with relative ease. Additionally, I'm limited by my paint hues, and that affects how vibrantly I can make my colors. I have a yellow ochre instead of a primary yellow, and so my greens are a warmer brown-leaning hue. While I'm at it, I'm blocking out where the shadows and the highlights will be before going in for the second coat. Now I'm really enjoying myself here. This isn't complicated. I'm throwing paint onto a canvas, niggling it around with my brush, and pushing it into corners and slathering it over the grass. This blended look is kind of hard to do with acrylic paints and easier with craft paints, which have a lot more water and take longer to dry. Additionally, it's very easy to do with oil paints once you get the hang of using those. I love craft paint and prefer them to thick body paints, but I had done a painting for a friend sometime in 2023 with these paints and was surprised by how well I handled them. So we challenge ourselves. Also, craft paints are a different breed of difficult, and I'm not getting into that right now. I was really hoping I would be able to do this entire piece without complications. I was hoping nothing bad would happen, but it did, and now we are here. I am not left-handed, I'm right-handed, but in late 2023, I injured my arm. It was a nerve and tendon issue and required an entire year of essentially bed rest and therapy before I got better. That meant no video games, no typing, no vacuuming, chopping vegetables, grooming the dogs, raking the leaves, playing guitar or piano, and absolutely no drawing. This painting isn't significant because it's a redraw. This is the first real piece of art I'm doing in over a year. As someone who was working as a commissionable artist for nearly 5 at this point, that was devastating. That meant losing clients, letting skills wane, and just staring into space most days. I did watch a lot of movies though, and I started a list. I've become a bit of a connoisseur, if you will. But back to the painting. I switched my paints to an acrylic gouache. It's easier to spread around and requires less effort, which is important as I will eventually be using my right arm again. The flat surface also helps, as holding your hand in a raised position for hours is tough, regardless of who you are. Kudos to portrait artists, by the way, you guys are insanely impressive. My paints also have a different hue to them. I have a bright yellow now, and my colors are very saturated, less brown leaning, but I still like them. I've gone back to a style I prefer. It's very sleek, not blendy, very blocked in and precise. I describe this as being sticker-like. It's like you can cut out the shapes and stick them somewhere, put a white border around them, and they'll be perfectly sticker-like. So much of my art looks like this, and you can go see all of it on my Instagram if you'd like. Link in the description. You'll also notice the nausea-inducing rotation of the canvas at times as well. And this is important! My injury makes it hard to tense my fingers and wrist and twist them in certain directions. It's easier to just move the canvas, and let's not pretend that we don't all do this. And if we don't, then it's probably because the camera is always watching. It's not aesthetic, it's kind of annoying to see, but it works for what I need it to do, and that's to put as little strain on my arm as possible. As we progress, the orchard becomes more wild. A tree has been cut down or has fallen. Seedlings are sprouting up in every direction. A cat comes strolling in. I'm going in and adding highlights and shadows. The light plays through the trees and dapples the bark and the grass below it. Fruit has fallen on the ground, desired by none but the insects and wild animals they will attract. I'm not taking time to explain what's going on in terms of my choices. While making art, my choices are fickle. I'm not thinking of the final result, I'm thinking of the moment. What would look good here? How do I want the highlights to flow? Should I do this? Should I remove that? Everything you see is just the things that I've done, not what I've thought. I'm just vibing, listening to a documentary in the background, while my hand translates the soup of my desires from my mind onto the canvas. Would it be nice to know why I did what I did? Sure, I guess, but you can ask me directly in the comments if you really want. Otherwise, just sit back and enjoy. Or don't. You don't have to stay and watch. This is about me, after all, and my musings and thinking about how far I've come as an artist. The orchard continues to come alive. Light plays on the fruit in the tree. Blades of grass glisten brightly in the hot summer sun. The leaves on the saplings are brilliant in their newness, stealing your attention as you stroll through an orchard that cares for nothing but its own self-expression. Everything is bright. Everything is just as it should be. A few more highlights, and done. Goodness, what a difference! Can this really be called a repaint? It's not at all the same piece anymore. Nothing remains of the old orchard, save for the position of the trees. Perhaps the orchard we had was a new orchard, freshly planted and grown, trimmed and perfect in its wildlessness, dreaming to become uncontained. The things I like about the painting are the highlights and the shadows, mostly. I tend to struggle with pushing light and shadow and darkness. I tend to stay away from that and stay in the realm of colors, hues, and intensities that are familiar to me. By playing with the highlights and shadows, I've made something really interesting, something that has depth. Like, the shade looks very cool to me, and the light looks so bright and warm. I love all the little saplings and their very, very bright leaves. I love the fruit on the ground specifically, and I like that the fruit on top of the trees has that very, very bright look to it, and the fruit in the shadows is quite dark, as it should be. I love all of the little grass. The thing I don't like about this painting is actually the dappling on the bark. It doesn't quite come across as dappling. Maybe in some places, but not everywhere. I think overall, the painting is amazing. I'm so happy with it. Seriously though, I have been creating art for a long time, and this is the culmination of many years of practice, study, and research. If you are new to art, take heart. You will become amazing sooner than you think. I'm amazed every day. Thank you for joining me today. You may do as you wish with the buttons below, but I don't promise another peek into my studio anytime soon. These videos are hard to make, and I've got school and work and a life outside of this. But if I do open my doors again, perhaps I shall see you there. Until then, so long, farewell, goodbye.